Welcome, guys, to episode 10. Yes, that's right, double digits, episode 10 of the Player Base Podcast. I am your host, Mulzak, and this episode, I'm going to be going solo. I actually want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. Sometimes, at some point, I might have a friend on here, and if you ever hear someone call me Carl or Carlton, well, my name is Carlton. And I just thought maybe at this point, episode 10, it was important to get on a personal level with people. So I just wanted to go through that. My favorite games of all time are going to be Crash Bandicoot, Ratchet and Clank, things like that. I am a sucker for those retro games and stuff like that. My favorite developer of all time is Naughty Dog. But that's not what today is about. Today is about my no spoiler review of The Last of Us 2. Yes, that is right. This review is going to be spoiler free of the story, and it's going to highlight the points that I feel personally people need to know. So, with that being said, I want to start off with the thing that I took most notice in, right? And that's going to be the facial expressions. Never in my life, never have I ever seen this kind of emotion and movement in a video game for somebody's face. You can see every expression and everything that person is feeling. It is all there. Whether it be happy, whether it be sad, whether it be angry, it's there, and it's super impressive to see what Naughty Dog has done with this. The next thing that would come up is the audio in the game. The audio is spot on if you're wearing headsets, or if you're wearing a headset, I should say. It's perfect, right? Something's on your left, it's on your left. Something's on your right, far off, you can tell, okay, that was a little bit far off. Someone's walking beside you, you can tell, okay, that's close. Grade A on the audio. But I want to go into the world. So, the world, actually, the world this time around has a bunch of open world areas in it. And while the game itself is not open world, once you get to these areas, it technically is for a while. So, there's tons of areas to explore, collectibles to find, safes to crack, puzzles to solve. There's tons of it, guys. And it's just very visually pleasing. Like the way that they created this environment, you can tell that we are in this reality of our character situations. So you can tell, okay, this has been growing for a long time, or this has been decaying for a long time. You can see that in the environment and in the graphics. It's so many important little attention to details that they put in there, right? So it's just very impressive to me. But I know what you guys are all wanting to hear. You're wanting to hear about the story. I know you're thinking, but you just said it's no spoiler. There's no spoilers. There's no spoilers, I promise. I'm just going to give my honest opinions so that whenever you get to the game, you can decide for yourself, hey, I want this. Or, hey, I don't really know if I'm into that, right? So, the story, surprisingly, on normal mode, and I didn't do any sidetracking. It took me 15 hours to beat. 15 hours is a long time compared to the first game. I think the first game on normal mode maybe was 7, took me like 7 hours my first playthrough. And this is over double that, which gets me to the theme that I really want to talk about for this, right? The theme for this episode, I think, what Naughty Dog was trying to portray was there's two sides to every story, right? So, okay, you play the first 7, 8 hours as Ellie. You build up this hate for somebody, like this actual hate for this enemy towards Ellie. And then you go and you're like, okay, this is where the game should end, but no, it doesn't end. You actually play through all of the events that were taking place as that enemy of Ellie. So you get to see both sides of the story as they were happening. And it really makes you think, well, was this person really in the wrong for these things that they did? And a lot of people disagree with me here, but I think that they were I think that they were both kind of in equal, honestly. And that's not a spoiler, that's just me talking to people who have played it. You can at me all you want, at Mulzak123 on Twitter. You can at me because I think that they were both on equal playing fields. This thing happened because another thing happened, blah 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 blah. What I'm getting at is that there is two sides to every story and you get to see that. But also, on top of that, I think that after the second part of the story, the game it should have ended, in my opinion. What happened basically, in my mind, I think that they were trying to overcompensate for what should have been the ending, and they left it at a worse ending than the first game. My opinion, of course. That's just how I see it. I mean, is this a masterpiece like the first game? No. Is it worth the play? 100%. If you're a fan of the first game, go and get this game. It is amazing. I loved it to death. It was very fun, but it's not a masterpiece. It was very lackluster in some areas of the story. Like you could tell yourself, okay, I'm getting a little bored, or okay, I mean, bored might not be the right word, but you could say definitely that, okay, I wish that this part I could fast forward or something, right? There's also new enemies in the game. There's new enemies in terms of humans and infected, which if you didn't expect, I'm sorry that you were listening to a no spoiler review and I said that. But what were you expecting? These new enemies are actually called scars, and they're humans, and basically they are this tribe of people that worship a god, and they disagree with the wolves, which are another group of bad people, and they live off on an island by themselves, and they're like on this war against each other. And you get to see that throughout the game, especially through the other person's eyes. You get to see that happening a lot. Now, the new infected, I'm not going to talk about because, oh boy, you're in for a treat on some of the new things. But there was very much a lack of bloaters. There were, I think we saw one bloater in the entire game, and that really upsets me because that was the go-to tank, like boss, mini boss, right? And we'll also get into the you can see you can see the humanity in your enemies, right? And I know this sounds crazy, but just listen for a second here. The enemies are calling their dogs by their names. They're telling them you'd be stealthy behind something hiding, and they'd be talking to their dog, just saying, "Oh, you're a good girl." Call the dog by their name, and then when their dog tries to attack you and you kill them, like you kill the dog, you can actually see that person that they will start crying and screaming about their dog and say their name and say, how could you? And also they do the same thing to their friends. So you could be fighting a group of enemies, you kill somebody to get them out of your way, and another person in the background's like, no, Sean. It's amazing the detail that they've put into this kind of thing. I really enjoy what they've created. That's all I can really say is there's immersion everywhere in this game. There's so much immersion, down to, like, I've covered the facial expressions, the two sides to every story. There's humanity in people that you can just hear and see. The environment, there's so much immersion in this game. But I have to go back to how the story is very lackluster, in my opinion, in certain places. Overall, this game was amazing. 100% great game. Not a masterpiece. Not a masterpiece like the first game. There was no parts in the story, and I'm just going to say, okay, if you haven't played the first one, why are you listening to this review, right? So I'm going to spoil something that happens in the first one. If you didn't play the first one, why are you here? So you know that scene in the first one where the dad and kid, you meet up with them, and the kid gets bit and turns, and the dad shoots himself. Do you remember that feeling it left you with, right? The feeling of you just connected with these characters, and now this happens, and you're just alone again. Nothing in this game hit you like that. And I at least expected them to try to top up something in their intro to the game that would match up to the intro of the first game, and it was nothing like that. They didn't even have the intention of trying. And nothing in this game really stood out like those major moments. So overall, I would say I'd give this game about an 8.5 out of 10. And I know there's tons of reviews, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And then there's the user reviews that are like 4 out of 10, 2 out of 10. From an honest gaming perspective of someone who loves the Last of Us universe, this game is an 8.5. 100% my opinion, but 8.5 is a good number to rate this game. So I know this was a short episode. I know this might have been a little weird being alone and everything, but I want to thank everybody for listening. We are available on every podcast app. Be sure to subscribe if you like our content, follow, like, comment, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. You can follow us on our Twitter at ThePlayerBasePC. Again, that is at ThePlayerBasePC. You can follow me on Twitter at Mulzak1234. You can send us some fan mail and voice messages to ThePlayerBasePodcast at gmail.com. We would love to hear anything from you guys. We love to see the feedback, and it's been very positive, and we just really appreciate it. Now, speaking about podcasting apps, I would like to mention that we are now available on a whole range of other apps. Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, the list goes on. We just got added to a whole bunch. Deezer, Podbean, so many. So again, that's why I'm trying to start rebranding and saying that we are available on every podcast app instead of saying, hey, we're on this app and this app and this app. We're on too many to count now, and our numbers are climbing, and I just appreciate all of the feedback we get. So until next time, this was episode 10. Peace out.